Welcome. In this presentation, we're going to view the network shares available through Samba on the Centralpointe server. These are a part of what's known on the Centralpointe server as the Flexshares. To get there, we want to click on the Server tab and then click on Flexshares. This will present us with a list of the available Flexshares. Now we're going to call them Flexshares as through this module and others we're going to show that these are available through file, through FTP, and through web or HTTP. Here in the list of the defined Flexshares we can see the different shares that are available and what type of share it is, whether it's file and FTP and web, or FTP only or web only. We see the share name, its description. Here we can disable, edit, and if necessary delete that FTP share. That Flexshare. In seeing this, the primary benefit of the Flexshare is that you can combine the functionality of that share to not only be a file share but also an FTP share and web share, allowing you to push data up to the FTP if you happen to be on the LAN through the file share or to the web share. This allows an incredible flexibility to present data to your customers, be they through FTP, web, or be they internal customers through the file share. As we can presume, the majority of time for your internal customers inside the LAN will use the file share to access the different shares available to them through the server. Now let's take an opportunity to actually create a Flexshare. To do so, let's scroll below the list. We can see where we can add a Flexshare. We want to provide a name. In this case, we'll just provide test and a description. Next, click the Add button. It is important to note that the space character is not allowed. If we choose to add with the space character in the name, it will let us know that that's an invalid Flexshare name. Let's go ahead and just correct that. And let's click Add. Here we can see we've created the Flexshare, however, we have no ability to access that share. Attempting to enable the share at this point will provide us with an error saying you must select an option for this. The option, of course, being file, FTP, web, or configure email, which we will not review at this time. In this case, we're going to create a file share, which is the most common share you will be creating. As we come down, we can see the various options available to us. First, public access. It is strongly encouraged we leave that to no, which allows us to control what groups are able to access this share. Because of the refresh functions of the page, it's advisable first we do the drop-down menus and set the permissions. First, we want to set the group owner. It is encouraged we change that from root to the name of the group we want to be able to have access to it. In this case, we're going to choose support. Next, we want to set the permission level. We just want them to only read material on the Centralpointe server. We can leave it as read only, though that limits the functionality of that incredibly. Normally, we want this to be read-write. So we can see the page refreshed because it needed to add this new menu. We want the file write attributes and set that for this share. It is important to understand that the file write attributes only applies to the Centralpointe server operating system level. Samba does not read these file write attributes. Samba will only understand the read-write permissions that we set up here. Once we have the permissions set, the file write attribute sets, we've defined the group owner. Let's go ahead and put access to the support group and or as many other groups as we choose if the users we have do not belong to this. In the event that we want a group of people that have exclusive access to this, we will most likely have to create a new group for that. We are on that topic. Let's take a moment to review the permissions that associate to the Flexshares. It is important to understand how the architecture of the permissions works on the Centralpointe server for the Flexshares. In particular, it is group-based. Users cannot be assigned permissions to shares and make it an easily managed service that we provide through the server. That being the case, if we have Group A and Group B, in this case let's choose support and company, and a user belongs to one or both of the groups, they have access. If user A belongs to support but does not belong to company and both groups are selected, they will have access to this. It is important to understand, however, that if we want support to have one set of permissions and company to have another set of permissions, this is not available to them on the Centralpointe server. That is to say, if we want support to have read-write access and company to only have read access, that is not available through the Flexshare. Now let's return to enabling this Flexshare. So we've assigned permissions, group owner, the file write attributes, and who has access to this Flexshare. We can provide a comment if we wish, though it's not requisite. And now we want to update our changes. As you can see, it will refresh for us. Next, we need to enable first the type of Flexshare. After the type of Flexshare is enabled, now we can change the status of the Flexshare from disabled to enabled and update that. And refresh this and brings us that it is indeed enabled. As we go back to Flexshares, we can see our test, we can see it's a file, we can disable it here, we can edit. Now, if we need to edit the file Flexshare, all we have to do is click on the file, brings us to the general, and we can add, remove permissions, who has access, or the groups that have access to this Flexshare. We can also change the descriptions and the comments. In summation, the Flexshare provides us an incredible amount of options available to us. And as we can see, setting up the file Flexshare is exceptionally simple. All we have to do is define the name for it, who we want to have access to it, which is defined by group access, the owner, which is encouraged to set it up as whoever group access controls that Flexshare, the permissions you want to set, the read-only or read-write, and the file write attributes, which only pertains to the operating system level for the Centralpointe server. Please do not confuse the file write attributes with the permissions available through Sonic.